And good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our fourth and final webinar for the month of October. This October marks the 75th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and it's also the 30th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act of 1990, which are two very important milestones for people in the area of employment. And in honor of this, our Employment First Business Advisory Committee has organized a series of wonderful webinars throughout this whole month. And we truly hope that you enjoyed this series. In case you missed any one of the webinars, fear not, they are posted on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to visit it at a later time. And we want you to know that although the pandemic has brought upon many changes for employment, we would like for you to know that employment services continue to be available through WRC to provide support as needed on your employment journey in the event that you choose to work. Throughout the month, we also highlighted several different stories of employment for people with disabilities who have continued to work and excel during the pandemic in a variety of essential jobs. Please visit our website to learn more about these stories. They're located on our homepage under the latest news. And we're also going to link one of them in our chat box. So for today's presentation, we have Rhiannon Maycomer, who is WRC's Community Education and Training Specialist. And we also have Megan Mendez, who is WRC's HCBS and Employment Manager. They will share with us valuable information on one-page profiles. Exactly what is a one-page profile, how can you create one, and how you can benefit from creating one of these and utilizing it throughout your employment search. We also encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar, either by raising your hand and or writing in the Q&A box. So with that said, I want to introduce you to Rhiannon and Megan.
Thanks, Liddy. Thank you so much. And like Liddy said, welcome to our final webinar. So we're so excited to be here today presenting on behalf of our FBAC committee and provide you guys with some information on how to develop a one-page profile for the purposes of employment. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, we are going to tell you about a one-page profile. So you're going to learn about this tool if you're not already familiar with it. You're going to learn about how to use a one-page profile to introduce yourself to an employer or maybe a service provider who's helping you find employment. So that will be something we'll also cover. And you'll start creating your own one-page profile for employment. So at a later point in the training, we're going to have you actually participate in kind of an interactive way. So when we get to this point, if you have that worksheet that we sent you, the template for a one-page profile, great. If you've already downloaded it or printed it out, you'll want to have that nearby. However, you can always write down your notes about the questions we're asking you on a piece of paper and record it on that template later. So don't worry if you don't have it just yet. We just wanted to point that out to you. And we're going to really encourage you to share during this part of the workshop. Although it's in webinar format, which is a little, it's not the best as far as being able to see each other's faces. If you do raise your hand, like we said, we'll be able to bring you over so that you can participate and we can kind of see you face to face if you'd like to participate that way. Okay, and then also you're going to want to share what you've created. Hopefully, it's something that you're excited about to share, because we know that great plans don't do any good if they just sit on a shelf. So with that being said, what have we learned as a community supporting people with developmental disabilities? We've learned that just good plans are advocacy tools. They're a great way to kind of get what you need for yourself. And they work for people of all ages across many circumstances and really all abilities. This isn't just about disability. So, keep that in mind. And additionally, we're gonna talk about one piece of the planning process, which is that one-page profile that we keep referring to. And we're gonna look at how it can be used when searching for a job and, how people can best support you when you get that job to help you kind of do your best in that role and succeed. So what is a one-page profile? If you've taken a person-centered thinking course or any kind of planning course like that, you might be familiar with the one-page profile, but in case you're not, It is kind of this one-page introduction. It's a positive at glance look at 3 key components. So all one-page profiles have these sections, which are, what do people like and admire about you? So like strengths and characteristics. What is important to you? What are the things that matter to you? And, how to best support you around those things. So those are the 3 categories that you'll see in every one-page profile, along with a picture, hopefully. We like to include pictures in the one-page profiles as well. And so a one-page profile, it's used for the purpose of introducing someone for a specific situation. You could technically have, many one-page profiles, but today we're focusing on using one for the purposes of, like we said, finding employment or introducing yourself to new people once you've gotten a job, and enabling them to continue to best support you based on what you've recorded in there. Okay, so we'll move on to talking about how do we develop one. So how do you develop a great profile? In partnership with people you trust. That's a big part of it. So, you're not just kind of existing in the world as your own person. Hopefully you have some support people in your life, or, people that you consider yourself close to that know you well. Maybe this is your circle of support. And remember that if you're the person that is creating the profile on behalf of someone you support, that they're the expert. So they know themselves the best. So we really want to keep that in mind and make sure that they are driving the process of what gets included in this one-page profile. And if you're making this about yourself, your opinion matters the most. But we also want to encourage you to consider those that know you best in your circle of support. Ask for help if you'd like, from staff, family, coworkers, maybe your service coordinator if that applies to you, and providers that you might be working with, because they might think to include things, suggest things to you that you may have not thought of for yourself. They know you well. So, and a good partnership that exists when everyone knows what everyone is supposed to do, when everyone knows what their role is in the situation. We're able to come up with the best plans. So keep that in mind. And who should you talk to when you're developing it? So we just talked about this a little bit. Good plans, they include ideas from several people. You already know about yourself, of course, but others, they might see those strengths and personality traits in you that you don't always see in yourself. Sometimes it can be a little bit funny to think about, how do people view me, if that's not something you pause to look at every single day? Or maybe you're just kind of a modest person and wouldn't necessarily have said certain things about yourself, but people in your life that love you, care about you, support you, they're going to point those things out to you. So you'll want to try to call upon them for help if that's something that you're interested in. And later on in our workshop, Megan is going to help us demonstrate the process of kind of working together with people in your life to develop the best one-page profile for yourself. So, but before we get to that part of the training, we're going to go over a few examples so that you can see some different ways that this is being used for folks around employment. So this is Rebecca, and she is a support worker in a residential home. She's studied psychology in school and really learned that she has a passion for working with people with different kinds of disabilities. So she discovered that, and she's remained a support worker ever since. That's the job that she sought. And so this is for her already in her role as a support worker. She's using it for the purpose of telling her coworkers and supervisor what's important to her and how to best support her in her role at the residential home. And if we look at the section about what do people like and admire about Rebecca, so you'll see that she's a team player, she's really creative, and she works hard. So she's noted that people like and admire that about her. And you'd also learn that it's important to her to have time to collaborate with her colleagues and to be approachable by them. So being able to be approached is probably part of her being a good team player. So that's what she has recorded. She wants to be approachable And she wants to be able to see and influence positive changes in people's lives. So she's recorded those things here. And based on those things, how does Rebecca want to best be supported? So she's written, trust her that, you know, if you've assigned something to her, she's going to follow through on it. And if she needs help, she'll let you know. So this maybe speaks to a way that she would like to best be supported by a supervisor. You know, she's someone that's pretty independent and probably wouldn't want a supervisor who kind of stares over her shoulder. That's not something that works well for her. So she's letting you know, give her a chance, trust her, she's going to get it done, and she'll come to you if she needs that support. Okay, so pretty specific advice there. And she isn't someone, like we said, she's someone who works really hard. So it can be helpful to remind, she has Rebecca, she's written it in here. It can be helpful to remind her that not everything can be done in one shift, because she does work really hard. So that's a good pointer for her. You know, take your time. Next time we'll get to it. And you might notice also that Rebecca's profile is really nice to look at. She's got, you know, different shades of yellow, a nice picture, some flowers, and that probably speaks to her creativity. But also you should know that if flowers aren't your thing, you don't have to have flowers on yours. You can personalize it. You can have it look however you want it to look, because it's your one-page profile. So keep that in mind kind of as we're moving forward. And this guy, this is Russell, and no, this is not another Maycomber in the world. This is my brother. We're related. And this is his one-page profile. So as part of his circle of support, I actually participated in, you know, helping him develop this one-page profile when he was starting to meet new service providers. He was getting really serious about finding a job. And yeah, this was for the purpose of kind of getting to know those service providers who might be doing job development for him. So you'll see from looking at his profile, Russell's a really funny guy. He says stuff, he doesn't always mean to be funny, which he actually has it written here. Even if it's not always intentional, people do like and admire this humorous side of him. And he's also very detail oriented. He has the ability to remember things like from 3 years ago when you were walking down the street, what you were wearing, what you were saying, why you said it. He has a great memory. So that's another thing that people like and admire about Russell. And, you know, because he was introducing himself to service providers, he wanted them to know, what is his dream job? It's important to him to play video games. He loves video games, and it's his dream job to work for a video game company one day, maybe as a game tester or something like that. So he wanted to share that with the providers so they could keep that in mind when they're looking for employment for Russell. And he loves our family dogs. So Sadie and Rocky, they're his life. He loves them so much. And he wants to be able to have the time to spend with them. So he's recorded also that that's important to him. So a way to best support Russell, or a few ways during the employment search, is by helping him identify jobs that allow him to use his strengths. You know, he's particularly interested in roles where he could maybe do some inventory or some stocking. He thinks that this would be a good way for him to use his great memory, or, you know, just his strengths in general. And additionally, you know, he wants a job developer to know that he can use some support about, you know, about being reminded to follow up on job leads. Occasionally he has a hard time prioritizing what to do and how to kind of stay on track. So he doesn't want to miss opportunities. So if a job coach or developer can let him know, hey, you know, by this Friday, don't forget to send a follow-up thank you letter for your interview, something like that. So he benefits from that kind of support during the job search. Also, he's included some things, some characteristics. You know, this is kind of an additional category he's tacked on. These are characteristics of people who would and would not be a good match for Russell in his role. In their role as a support staff. So he wants someone who also has a good sense of humor. He would love to work with someone who's got that going. And also, you know, he wants a good listener. He likes to talk. So he's definitely someone who He wants to be heard, that's for sure. And he doesn't want a job coach that's dishonest and condescending, which is pretty fair, I think. So next, we're going to talk about, we're going to meet Corinna. Corinna is well organized, she's confident, and she's already employed. So this is her one-page profile for her role where she's working at a school. And it's a little bit hard to read maybe on your end, so we've pulled out some kind of key points about Corinna that she's shared. It's important to Corinna at work to understand the purpose of a task. Where does it fit within the bigger picture, the impact that it's going to have on her, her team, the children, and the standards? So that's important to Corinna. It's also important to her to have time with her team and her colleagues to share ideas, share the workload. So those are the things that matter to Corinna at the workplace. And how do you support Corinna now that you know that? Well, small gestures such as smiling or saying good morning, those really help to brighten up her day. They help to make her feel positive. And also, when you ask her to complete a task, check in to see what else does she have on her to-do list. Help her to prioritize these tasks, as well as give her time to complete them. So you'll see, again, hopefully you can read what's on here, but if not, just know that note that it's very specific. The things that she's included they're specific, they're meaningful, they're definitely going to help people who are supporting her learn detailed and useful information about her. So you'll want to keep this in mind when you're developing your own one-page profile, because you want it to be a good tool for people to truly support you at their best and, give you the best experience in your job role. So keep that in mind. And finally, we have Christian. So Christian, he's 19 and he's in a program where he's preparing for kind of exiting high school. It's a transition work program. And he's actively looking for a job right now. So in this blue section in the middle at the bottom, he has chosen underneath the picture to include his contact information. It's X'd out right now for the purposes of this presentation, but he thought that this is something that would be good, to share with anyone who's looking at it. And potential employers who he shares this with, they'll probably see on here that he has goals. He has short-term and long-term goals, and he wants them to know them. He wants them to know that it's important to him to continue to learn new skills and to also get an apartment on his own one day. He wants that apartment to be by his parents and have a pool. So he's got dreams, right? And he wants potential employers to know that he's not a shy guy. You can count on him to remember a new skill once he's learned it. So these are things that are, kind of what people like and admire about him, his strengths. And some supports in the workplace, time for him to process instructions is a good way to support Christian, as well as visual and auditory instruction. So providing instruction that speaks to the way that he learns best. And now that you've seen these examples, we're going to move on to the next portion of our webinar, which will be that interactive piece where we're going to help you to develop your own one-page profile. Megan's going to guide us through that. And before we do that, Lydia, I just want to ask, are there any questions up to this point?
Hi, Rhiannon. Thank you for that great presentation. No, there are no questions in the Q&A box. I just have one quick question.
Sure.
I like that you mentioned writing down things that I like and admire about myself. Sometimes it could be a little bit difficult to write that down if you're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend as the best approach to be able to find out that information about ourselves?
Well, actually, I think you'll find in the next part of the workshop, we're going to demonstrate that pretty, to the best of our ability. But, just really speaking to the people in your life that know you best and asking their kind of thoughts around this. If you're having a hard time coming up with this for yourself, or, maybe even just looking at a list of words where people, a list of things that are qualities, strengths about a person. And, oh yeah, this is me. I am well organized. So we'll demonstrate that actually in just a second. So if there aren't any questions, I think we'll go ahead and get started with the next portion.
Awesome. Thanks, Rhiannon. And I also really liked that you shared that you're part of your brother's circle of support, that you came up with that one-page profile as a team. And I just wanted to clarify so that everyone knows, is like, what was Russell's perspective that you were going to be sharing his profile today with everyone? What did he think about that?
He was really excited. He actually, I forgot to mention, but he's employed now. He's been working for the last several months at pavilions in our community, and he's really happy. So he was excited to share how the profile helped his experience.
I thought that would be good for us to highlight too, because knowing that, the circle of support worked together on this great one-page profile, and that he was able to get the supports he needed to find a job, I think it's really important for us to highlight that success story. So thanks again, Rhiannon, and thanks to Russell for letting us share his profile today. So I'm going to walk us through an example of a template that we created of how you might consider developing a one-page profile for employment purposes. Rhiannon did a great job of giving us some examples of how a one-page profile can be used, both to share with support staff or with a potential employer or with coworkers. And today we're going to focus on, if you're looking for a job, how can you give yourself the best introduction to the potential employer? So we're going to kind of narrow our focus today while we do this. And we're going to, each of us, fill out our own one-page profile for employment. You'll note that earlier Rhiannon said that one-page profiles work for everyone, regardless of ability. And I see on our webinar participant list that it looks like we have a variety of folks participating today, some from our provider community, some maybe from our individuals and families that we support. And I really want to encourage you to go along with, as we do the presentation, reflecting about yourself and your strengths. So that way you can think about how you would develop your own one-page profile for employment. Rhiannon also mentioned we did send this out. So if you have it nearby, now's the time to go ahead and get ready to start writing some things down, or just on a piece of paper, as Rhiannon mentioned. And you'll notice that we included the date at the top and a potential employer that you're maybe going to share this information with. You might have a one-page profile that becomes kind of a skeleton that you would use for all sorts of employers. And then you might tweak it. If you're applying for a specific job, you might want to highlight certain strengths or skills that you have for that specific employer. Today, we'll practice just kind of a general employment search. But if you say, for example, in Russell's example, and he were applying to video game companies, you might highlight the fact that you're really knowledgeable about video games in the skills I bring to the workplace. So if you were applying for a potential employer that had a very specific focus, you might consider adding those things to your general one-page profile you developed today. So we're going to go through each of the sections, and then what we'll be doing is we'll be asking for your participation. So the first section that we discussed is on a one-page profile is like and admire. And Rhiannon did a great job of talking about some of the best qualities that people have and how those qualities can be included in your one-page profile. So while you're thinking about this section of your one-page profile, you want to think about both the things that you like and admire about yourself, or that others might be recognizing about you in the workplace. You may have received a compliment in the past. Kind of think about, where have you been complimented about your positive traits in the past? And to Liddy's question, it is sometimes hard for us to think about those positive traits for ourselves, especially, in the United States, we tend to oscillate, or we tend to go back and forth between being proud of ourselves, but also needing to be having a certain amount of humility or being humble about our positive traits. So it can be difficult sometimes to think about those things. But think about what people have told you are your good positive traits in the workplace. These could be personality strengths or traits of your character that others have recognized about you. So maybe if someone were talking to me about what I would want to include on my one-page profile, I would say that probably in the workplace, other people like and admire my sense of humor. I tend to like to have a workplace that can balance the work that we do with a sense of fun. Everybody wants to have a good time while they're working. So an appropriate level of humor is always needed in order for us to get through the day. So I would say people like and admire about that about me in the workplace. And as Rhiannon mentioned before, if you are a person who provides support to people with disabilities or people that are looking for work, you can help have a conversation to kind of draw those things out. And this is a process that we call guess, ask, write. We're going to make a guess about something that maybe others might like and admire about a person. And then we kind of ask to make sure that we've got it right. And if it seems like that's something that's important to the person and makes sense for the person. And then once we've narrowed it down and identified what that is, what people might like and admire about that person, then we write it down on the one-page profile. So if I were having a conversation with Rhiannon, I'll share with you, Rhiannon and I work very closely on a regular basis. We're training, we're doing person-centered thinking training. We work on a lot of projects. So I think I know her pretty well. So I'm going to try and make a guess as to something that she might want to add to her one-page profile if she were looking for another position. Rhiannon, one thing while we've worked together that I've really liked and admire about you, and that I think might be something you might consider adding to your one-page profile, is that I would say you're really dependable. Whenever there's a project that we need to work on, I can count on you that the piece that you're going to be working on, that you'll get it done. So would that be something you think would work for your one-page profile?
Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think so, for sure. That's been something that people have said about me in the past, that I'm dependable. And also I'd maybe tack on to that kind of my loyalty. I think those things tend to go together about me. So yeah, thanks. I would add that.
Awesome. Yeah. I would also, I think your loyalty is a great asset in the workplace. And I think if someone were looking at your one-page profile and saw both that you were dependable and loyal, that would make you a good candidate for a position, any position. That's a skill that if an employer saw those aspects to your personality, those are things that employers are always looking for. So that would be a great positive introduction on your one-page profile.
Thank you.
So now, for everyone who's here participating with us, we've also given a couple examples of words that are on the slide right now that you might think about as characteristics that you have. So going back to our conversation with Liddy about how do you think of ideas of what I might add to my like and admire section, here's some suggestions of positive qualities. They're just simple positive qualities that might be applicable to you, and they might not. But we would love to invite you to take just 1 or 2 minutes to think about what are the positive qualities that you would bring to the workplace that others like and admire about you. So I'm going to play a little music, and then while you're taking some notes, I would love to ask anyone who's willing to share what they think others like and admire about them to come over and speak with us. So in order to do that, you would go to the participant list and use the raise hand feature, and then we will be able to call on you and bring you over. Another way for you to share what you think people like and admire about you would be to enter in the chat box. And Rhiannon is going to enable the chat box so that we can see all of the things that people like and admire about you. So I'm going to give you one or 2 minutes. I'll play some music while you kind of reflect on the things that people might like and admire about you. And then we'll see what you come up with. So I'm going to play some music right now. All right. Hopefully you've thought of a couple things that maybe people might like and admire about you. And I would love for someone, if you'd like to share with us what you came up with, to go ahead and use the raise hand feature. I'm keeping an eye on the participant list to see if anyone would like to share. Okay, we have someone who'd like to come over and talk. I'm going to bring you over, EK.
Oh, sorry, I did it before you had you. So
okay,
EK, you should be able to speak now. If you want to go ahead and unmute.
Okay, this is Esther Kelsey. That's what EK is. What people have told. Hello?
Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
What people have told me in the past that what they admire me for is that I'm fun, I'm smart, I'm joy to be around with, dependable, and wait a minute. They're enjoyable, dependable, and honest.
Awesome. Those are great qualities. Thank you. For those of you, any of you who might be on the English side of things, I just want to kind of repeat what I think was that Esther that was speaking just now? Hi, Esther.
Yes.
Good to hear from you. So Esther said she was a joyful person who people like to be around, and she's really dependable. And I think those are really great qualities that you have, and really great marketable qualities for an employment search. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. And I see a few people in the chat have responded that Jennifer says she's patient, honest, confident, and diplomatic. Diplomatic is a great characteristic to have in the workplace because you want to be able to get along with your coworkers and maybe other external partners, people that you have to work with in the community. So diplomacy is a really great quality to have in the workplace. And I see Linda has also said hopeful, smart, happy, and fun. And Cece says she's approachable. She gives feedback respectfully, and she listen and advise when asked. What a great point. Sometimes we have a tendency to want to give advice before we're even asked for that suggestion. And it's a natural part of trying to help. But I think sometimes good support looks like providing that advice when you're actually asked for it. So great point, Cece. Okay, so let's move on to our next section that we're going to work on. Now that we've thought about a positive introduction, about the qualities of who we are, that the skills that we bring to the workplace, or the things that people like and admire about us in the workplace. Now we're going to talk about what skills you might bring to the workplace. So as I mentioned before, there might be specific skills that a potential employer that might be interested in that you possess. So for example, if you're really good with technology, there might be specific employers who are looking for that skill set. So you might want to highlight that in your one-page profile. Or you may have a lot of experience in customer service. Customer service is a skill that translates across many different types of jobs. People provide customer service in places like stores and restaurants, but customer service is also about providing a good experience to the people that are receiving your services in any setting. So in an administrative job, you might also be providing customer service because you're answering phones and you're interacting with the public. So if you have good customer service, that might be something you could highlight in your one-page profile for a variety of settings. You might have specific skills that involve administrative work. Do you have a history of, filing and organizing? Are you able to support people in an administrative fashion? That might be something you could also add to your skills. Or you could add a skill that is more, I don't know how the best way to say it, but abstract. Because leadership is a skill. It may not be something that you specifically do, but it is a quality that you possess and a way that you can guide teams. If you're able to be a good leader, that's a skill that you can develop over time. So in this section of the one-page profile, we're really thinking about what are the things that you know you can do well. For me, I would say a skill that I bring to the workplace is I think I'm a pretty good trainer. I think I have a pretty good handle of presenting to others and having an interactive presentation. So I would say for a skill that I would put on my one-page profile is that I have a lot of experience with training and presenting to many partners in the public. So that would be something I would probably add to my one-page profile. And we're going to do the Guest Ask Right again, where Rhiannon and I have a conversation about what maybe she would want to add to her one-page profile for a skill. So Rhiannon, when you and I have worked together, one of the things that we do a lot is we have to do both smaller scale projects, and we also do organizational level projects. And one of the things that I know you're really great at is seeing the big picture of things. And is that something you would think about putting on your one-page profile? A skill that you bring is you're a good strategic thinker?
Yeah, I am able to see the big picture, and I would highlight that about myself, but I think kind of in a unique way, I'm also able to see the fine details of things. So I have that ability to see both the really finite kind of detail-oriented aspects of a project and also how it fits into the bigger picture. So I would link those together because I don't know if that's always the case for everyone else. So I would highlight that about myself. Yes.
That's a great point, Rhiannon, because I think I share with you my ability to see the big picture, but I don't think I'm very detail oriented. That's a really good skill to have. I tend to have a hard time figuring out what are the steps to get there. I can figure out where we need to be going, but I might not know all the steps to get there. So I think highlighting that on your one-page profile could potentially really, market yourself to a potential employer. I think that's a great thing to add. So we'll do what we just did with Like and Admire, where we give you another minute or two to think about what are the skills you bring to the workplace. What would you want to share with a potential employer that you possess that maybe others don't, that would help you to get the job you're looking for? So I'm going to play some music, and then we'll be asking for another volunteer to share with us. So I'll go ahead and play the music, and we'll come back in about a minute. All right, I'm so excited to hear. It looks like we have a couple participants who are willing to share. Rhiannon, I'm wondering if you could help me by asking, by managing if they would like to come over and share what the skills they are that they bring to the workplace. That would be helpful.
Sure. I see that we have Madeline raising her hand, so I'm gonna bring Madeline over.
Great.
Let's see. Madeline, you should be able to speak now.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hi, my name's Adriana.
Hi, Adriana. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, I have two of them. It's customer service and leadership.
That's great. Yeah. So for your customer service, could you tell me a couple things that you think you're really great at with customer service? Is it about your personality, your demeanor? What is it about customer service you think you're really good at?
Like helping people.
Exactly. Being helpful. That's a
Yeah.
really good quality to have. And you're willing to help when you're faced with a situation.
Yes.
And would you mind telling me a little bit more about your leadership as well? I'm curious, like, what are the things that you think make you a good leader?
I try to help loyalty, and I try to help other people, like in their if they have like any problems or anything.
Awesome. Yeah, Adriana, I think that's a great point, is if you're demonstrating that you're helping others and you're willing to kind of help people through their problems, you know, that is modeling good leadership behavior. You're saying, I'm willing to be helpful, I'm willing to pitch in, and I'm willing to help others. That definitely makes you a leader. So I think that would be great to add to your one-page profile. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Rhiannon, are there any responses in the chat that we should also share?
Yeah, we have quite a few that we can talk about. So some folks have said, EK said leadership skills, listening skills, critical thinking. Jennifer shared leadership skills, staying calm in emergency situations or when under pressure. And skills I bring to the workplace, this is Ben. I have some skills. I work hard and I love technology. I'm a people person. I'm punctual. I go the extra mile when needed, and he's familiar with a lot of different operating systems and softwares. He likes to influence his coworkers positively. So, yeah, there's quite a lot in the chat box.
Awesome.
Loyal and understanding. Yeah, so.
Great. Yeah, Jennifer, I think your suggestion about staying calm in an emergency situation, I mean, that's such a great quality to have. You could think of a lot of situations where, you know, stress comes up in the workplace and a lot of people have a hard time handling that. So thanks for sharing that. And Ben, I really liked hearing about, you know, a simple thing like being punctual. That's something that maybe an employer would want to hear. So thanks everyone for sharing that. That's great. Let's move on to the next section of the one-page profile. So this section is similar to what we talked about earlier, is what is important to you. And we've kind of reframed that as, what are you passionate about? So when you're talking to a potential employer, you might want to say, obviously there are things that are important to you, but an employer would really want to know, what are you passionate about? What are the things that you're willing to go above and beyond for, because it really matters to you? So when you're thinking about this for your employment search, you may want to think about, what are the things that you would want to have present in your job in order to stay happy and motivated in the workplace. You know, we all have personal passions, and we have things that keep us happy in our job. And those things you would want to highlight, so that way your employer knows what's really important to you. So an example of something that you might be passionate about is being of service to others. We just heard Adriana speaking about how she really likes to be helpful. So that might be something that she would say she's passionate about, is being of service to others. We also, you might want to share that you want to make an impact. So it may just be about making change happen, making sure that your work means something to someone else. You might also be passionate about solving problems. Some people who are really great critical thinkers really like to spend their day thinking about those tough problems, and that would keep them happy at work rather than just doing the same thing every day. Some people prefer to do the same thing every day, but you might also want to do something different every day and solve a new problem every day. That might keep you happy in your job. And another thing that you might be passionate about is being creative. Maybe you're an artist, maybe you're into music, maybe, you know, in Russell's case, he was into video games. Maybe there's a creativity about that you want to explore. And maybe those are what you enjoy doing in your personal time as well. Something that helps us to be happy in a job are, sometimes we want to think of the things that we really enjoy doing in our personal time, and how does that tie into the job that we're looking for. So maybe you're really creative, and you would want to find a way to find a job that really enhances your ability to be creative. So I'm gonna say, for me, what I would say I'm passionate about is, I would really like to think that the job that I do makes an impact. And it really makes a difference on the lives of people that we support. And I like to think that maybe I'm passionate about like a more system-wide change, and making sure that the supports that we're providing are really how people want to live their best lives. And I'm gonna guess that this might be similar for Rhiannon, because we work so well together, and we have kind of a shared vision around this. So I'm gonna guess that maybe if you were adding something you're passionate about to your one-page profile, it would be something to the effect of making a system-wide, or something that would help the lives of people with disabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. I'm definitely passionate about anything that will help create more equal rights for people with disabilities and have that big scale impact. So we share that, that's for sure.
That's great. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and again give you a minute or so to think about what the things are that you're passionate about, and you can add those to your one-page profile that we're working on. All right. Do we have any volunteers that would like to share something that they're passionate about and what they would look for in a job?
Christian was messaging that she was open to doing this. So I think I'm going to bring Christian Alvarez over.
Okay, that's great. Christian, could you tell us one thing that you are passionate about? If you were looking for a job, would you like to share?
Yes. So I am passionate about working with people whose voices do not get heard. So I think that kind of goes into what my main area of work I want to be in.
Yeah, so you would want to highlight that you're trying to make an impact on making sure other people's voices are heard. I think a lot of us end up working in the various realms of nonprofits and social services because we really care about making an impact. So thanks for sharing that, Christian.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that we could hear what they're passionate about?
Yeah, I see EK has her hand up, so I'm going to bring her over to share with us again, and then we'll read some from the chat. Great. You should be able to speak, Esther.
Okay. What I like to see is a positive boss and a honest boss, and for the co-workers to work together as a team. Again, leadership skills. Want to make a difference in people's lives. I'm compassionate about having a good listening skills, and be creative, and being a critical thinker.
Awesome. Thanks, Esther. Yeah, I think highlighting that teamwork aspect is something that if you're passionate about, that's really good to share with an employer for sure. I think that's a great quality. Yeah.
We have one more person that's raised their hand, so we'll bring Linda over. Linda, you should be able to speak now if you unmute.
Hi, Linda.
Linda, can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, I saw Linda did write in the chat. I'm not able to hear her.
Yeah.
Maybe we could at least capture what she said in the chat and then try again with another section with Linda.
Yes, let's do that. So Linda, she wrote being of service to others, helping people and providing encouragement. And Linda, you work with us at the Regional Center, and I know that you're a great service to others, that's for sure. All right. So as far as some other entries in the chat, we have a theme throughout. I think we're all sort of in this world for a reason. We have people who want to make an impact, seeing the growth in those individuals and working with them, seeing the joy and confidence when they achieve the goal we're working on.
Awesome.
We also have Todd, who has shared that he's passionate about music and movies. So diversifying it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Todd, if you're passionate about music and movies, like, and you were looking for a job, if I'm correct, Todd, I believe you're gainfully employed and have been for quite some time. So I don't know if you're looking for a change in your employment, but perhaps that would be something you would share with your current coworkers, that's something that you might have in common. And that would be a way for you to let your coworkers know all the things that you like, so that maybe you could find shared interests. That's a good way to get along with your coworkers, is to find shared interests. So, but if you were looking for a new job and you're passionate about movies and music, maybe that would be something that could inform how you look for a job and what kinds of jobs you're looking for. So that would be great. That's a great suggestion. All right, so let's continue on to the next section of the one-page profile. And this is hopes and dreams for my career. So everyone has a dream career. It might be difficult to obtain. You know, if I were, my dream career was to be a professional karaoke singer, that might be difficult for me to obtain. I like karaoke, not that great at it, but I enjoy it. And I'm not quite sure how many professional karaokeers there are out there in terms of the availability of those types of jobs, but it's my dream. So we want to make sure we're really capturing what are your hopes and dreams. And it's really about what you would like to learn or explore. And even if it's a far off dream, what might there be steps that could help you get towards that, closer to that dream? Because everybody is entitled to have hopes and dreams. Even if it may take us a while to get there, we want to make sure that we include that. So a dream might be that you're just looking for that lifetime job. You want a career. You want something that you can land that will be a long time job for you. And an example of how you might get there would be learning a trade. So maybe a step to get to that lifetime job is going to a trade school or culinary school, and you would really want to become a professional chef. So that would be a way to move towards your hopes and dreams. Another hope and dream, and I heard a couple people say it in the last section, that they're passionate about teamwork. And it may just be that your hopes and dreams are to find a way to become a valued member of a team. Or there may be a specific profession that you're seeking to obtain. So maybe you're really wanting to get involved in the tech industry in some way, and you would like to somehow become a software designer. What are the steps that you might take to get there? But when we're looking at sharing this with a potential employer, you're wanting to think about what are the things that a potential employer might see that would be in alignment with what they're looking for. So if your hopes and dreams are in alignment with the potential employer you're sharing your one-page profile with, you definitely want to include those. And what can you highlight that brings your best foot to the table? So one hope and dream for my career, I would say it kind of goes again back to making an impact. I would really like to be able to contribute towards a system that really values self-determination, values people living the best lives that they can, and that services improve over time. So if I'm a part of that picture, that would be a successful career in my eyes. So that I would say that that would be something that I hope and dream for. And one thing I know about Rhiannon, if I was guessing for her one-page profile, is that we both have shared an interest in getting involved in more political things related to services, so local governments and things like that. So I'm wondering, Rhiannon, if you had your dream career, would there be something about it that would involve the development of policy or local government? Would that be something you would be interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been kind of passionate and interested in policy making, like you said, just how to have that broader impact across the system. I could see myself maybe getting involved with a task force specific to people with disabilities. So people that work in our, either on a state level or within our local government, to really look at things that impact the lives of people with disabilities and make positive change around that. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. So that would be a great thing to add to your one-page profile. So I'm going to give, again, another minute or so for you to think about what are your hopes and dreams. And you might have a specific job that you're looking for. You could share that. Or it might be something that you want to work towards, like maybe you're hoping to go to college or learn a trade. Or it might be something about how you want to work and what kind of environment you want to work. So I'm going to give you just another minute or so to think on that, and then we'll ask for volunteers again. All right. Do we have any volunteers who'd like to share maybe a hope and dream for their career?
Let's see. We have a couple hands. I'm wondering if Janisha, if you're able to speak, if you can tell us a hope and dream for your career. I've actually made it so that you can unmute yourself if you're willing to share with us.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would just say that something that this is kind of going along with the passionate about / hope and dream, I guess, but just that somehow I could make an impact on people reaching their highest potential and feeling valued, and their like unique contributions being valued, and people understanding how valuable they are, and other people understanding how valuable everybody is. So just, I think for me, I like that. I like for people to feel included and valued for who they are. So to somehow contribute to people understanding that better.
Yeah, that's really great, Janisha. I think, yeah, you've really touched on something that I think many of us feel is contributing to a culture where everyone is valued. I think it is a really great point. And it's something I think is a totally achievable hope and dream. So yeah, I think that's great that you shared that. Thanks for sharing.
Right. And
we can do one more.
Yeah. I think we will we'll bring Christian over again since she had her hand up. Christian, you're able to unmute.
Okay, thank you. Can you guys? Okay, I can hear myself. All right. Yeah. I really like Janice's answer. I think, like Megan, like you said, like we all kind of have that kind of main goal. I also wanted to add, I like in the PowerPoint you guys put to become a valued member of a team. I think that's also really important to feel, welcome in the team that you're in. And a more personal goal for myself, I would like to go back to school and earn my master's degree. I'm hoping I can achieve that in the next 5-6 years.
That's great, Christian. Yeah, specific goals and more big goals of how you want to feel as part of your career path. But yeah, having an educational goal, having a career development goal is a great thing to include. And especially with a potential employer, if they see that you're really dedicated to moving your career forward, that could be an asset to a company. So great suggestion, Christian. Did we have any other people who shared in the chat, Rhiannon, that we would want to highlight?
We did. We had Cece shared to continue to grow within their own company, within the company they're currently working at.
Great.
And Linda, so you have your hand up, Linda, but I'm going to read what you have written here, which is that she wants to learn more about technology and expand having a good working team.
That's great. Yeah. Having those goals about ways that you can learn and grow are great ways to, kind of come to a potential employer with your own aspirations and how you can be a valued member of a team. So I think that's a great point. So we're going to wrap it up with one last section of the one-page profile. And as we mentioned earlier on, we always want to include what is needed to be supported in your position. So everyone requires support, regardless of ability. We all need support. We need support from our family and friends. We have specific ways that we can, if we receive support, we'll thrive. And this section really speaks to what are the supports you need to excel in the workplace. So you would want to think about what are the supports you would want from a potential supervisor or a coworker. When you work with people, if you work alongside other people, you will need to think about what are the ways that you want them to either assist you, work alongside you, what are the relationships that you want to have, and how are those supports delivered? This in the suggestion where Rhiannon was talking about how these one-page profiles can also be used to share with a potential service provider or a job coach. You might want to be very specific about how that job coach can provide that assistance to you. So, for example, you want someone to show you how to do a task, or you want them to verbally tell you what is the way that you want to get information, can be a way that you might include in this section. So, communication style. Do you prefer to get information in writing and then reflect on it and then come back and ask questions? Or do you rather have a more casual conversation? What are the ways that you get information best? So you can be thinking about that when you're thinking about the supports you may need in the workplace. You can think about maybe the things that you may need assistance with. And this could be relative to if you need an accommodation in the workplace, if you feel like you have an area that you might need additional support, or it could just be something that is not your strongest suit and you can rely on others to support you with. For me, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big picture thinker, but the details kind of escape me. So Rhiannon is a great support to me because that's a thing I need assistance with. So if I'm thinking about a project we're working on, a support that I need to excel in the workplace is someone who can really break down the tasks that we're doing and get step by step. That is really helpful to me. And then lastly, what are the best ways someone can help you learn a task in the workplace? This could either be your supervisor, because oftentimes your supervisor is going to train you on the tasks you have to do in the workplace, or like we said, this could be a job support. So what are the ways that you can be best supported to learn those tasks in the workplace? Do you like to have a visual representation of what you're doing? Do you like to practice it several times before you're expected to do it on your own? What are the supports you need to really excel? So when I'm thinking, and I shared for me, I need some support around getting the details done when we're doing a big project. But one thing I know, about Rhiannon is that she's extremely busy. She wears a lot of hats in our organization, And I know that she has a lot of things that she's working on all at once. So if I were supporting you around that, Rhiannon, would it be helpful for me to schedule time with you to meet periodically? Is that what the kind of support you would really need in order for you to know what what our work together means? Do you need those meetings, or what would be helpful to you?
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. I'm a fairly independent worker, you know, and I think it's more for me, it's as long as I know deadlines, like you said, I have a lot of moving parts to my day. So if I could be provided with clear deadlines, it will really help me prioritize, you know, what needs to get done first. And if I'm stuck on what those priorities are, you know, as far as like if there's something within that project or task that I'm not clear about, then I would ask for a meeting. But more importantly for me, it's about just when does this need to be done by, so I can prioritize it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we do a guest ask right around something that we think might be a good support, sometimes we get it wrong, because honestly, if Rhiannon was completely overloaded and I had just told her some deadlines that were coming up via an email, that might have been more helpful than me suggesting a meeting. I would think that maybe on your one-page profile, Rhiannon, you would, like you just said, specify that a meeting, you'll let me know if we need to have a meeting about something. Because if I'm scheduling it, it just adds one more thing to your day. So when I guessed that, I kind of got it, but it was really more that you want just to know the deadlines, right?
Yeah, I think that's something I've seen in my kind of career come up a lot. If I have a pre-planned meeting that I don't necessarily need, it actually sort of stresses me out. So yeah, I will let, you know, a supervisor know if I'm in need of support around that. So thanks for helping me clarify that.
Yeah. So sometimes like I think it's really important for us to recognize we don't always get it right the first time, but by having that conversation, sometimes we can actually get to the real heart of the matter. And then we make sure we're providing that good support. So after learning all of this about how support looks like and what are the things we might need support around, we'll just take one more minute to think about some things that you might need support around in the workplace. And I'll give you, like a minute. All right. So I'm wondering if we have any volunteers of anyone who thought of something that might be helpful for them in the workplace if they need support.
There we go. Looks like Janisha is willing to share with us again. So Janisha, you're good to unmute.
Hi. Yeah, there was a couple of things that I was thinking about when it comes to like supports. And one of them is just like, if I do know how to do something and I do it maybe a little bit different, but it gets done well, then just like some freedom in that area. And then if I don't know how to do something, then training from the employer. And where I work now is awesome in both of those areas. They like have that down. So it's like really, it's a good fit because both of those things are things that I feel like I kind of need in order to be happy in the workplace, and I have them in my current job, so it's cool.
Great point, Janisha. Yeah, sometimes we might all we might have a deadline or something, a project we're working on that we have to complete, but we may do it in different ways. So having someone who is part of your team or a supervisor who can support your process, if the outcome is good work, really does help you have a better day in the workplace. and recognizing that everybody works differently is a great point. And then, yeah, training is like a huge support. I always say on my one-page profile, a great way to support me in the workplace is make me aware of new training opportunities, because I always want to learn. We're always learning, we're always growing. So that's something I always put in my one-page profile also. Thanks for sharing.
All right. So I see Linda, but I also see a message from Linda in the chat. So Linda says, I need more support with organizing paperwork better. So
yeah. So sometimes they're, keeping organized is not everybody's strongest suit. So making the people that you work with aware of that support need. And then for those of you who have taken person-centered thinking, I'm just going to share like an example, and I invite you all to consider in the future keeping an eye out for when we do offer person-centered thinking training. We expand on these skills. And so something you can do, if you need support around organizing paperwork, and that's something that you want to improve upon or receive support from someone on, one thing that you can do is called a 4+1 question. And that is basically a tool that helps us to think about, what have we tried? What have we learned? What are we pleased about? What are we concerned about? And knowing all this information, what can we do next? It's a thinking tool. So it helps us to figure out, here's something, a challenge I'm having, and think through all the steps that maybe help us try and think of action steps that we can do to improve the situation. So just wanted to mention that, because I think, sometimes the things we need support around don't always stay the same. They can change over time. So if we think through what have we tried and what's working and what's not working, then sometimes we might come up with new ideas of what we can try next. So great point, Linda. Thank you for sharing that. Do we have any other comments in the chat box?
Yeah, we have a few. Esther shared, I guess this is from the last one, but it's pretty cool. Her hope and dream is that she wants to write a book and be a Spanish translator. So I figured I'd share that so we don't skip over that. Amy said deadlines are very important. So Amy and I would definitely get along in the workplace. Esther also shared in regards to this section. So support me to excel on my job, making sure that I get things done on time by giving me a little reminder about what I need to get done.
That's really great, Esther. And I want to highlight how detailed, specific, and meaningful that thing that you just shared was. So you said, give me a little reminder on the things I need to get done. And that's very specific as what you would want someone else to do for you to make sure you are able to do what you want to do. So yeah, great point. Anytime we can add that detail that helps others to understand what we need, that's really great to add to your one-page profile.
Yeah, I would like, just going off of that idea of more specific detail, I believe this is Christian that shared with us. So Christian shared that she would like structure, laid out expectations, and clear instructions. Having goals and objectives to work towards, and also wanting transparency and trust from supervisors to complete projects and tasks. She doesn't want to be micromanaged, and be able, but is open to people checking in because she prefers open communication.
Great. Yeah, another great example of how to get specific. We really, I think I would really know how to support you, Christian, just from that one sentence. I would be able to know that you're a person who wants to work independently, but that because you said you value transparency, that we would make a plan around how communication would go. So that seems like that makes sense. So we've done some really great work to prepare us now to have a good framework of how we start a one-page profile for an employment search. And how does it look to you? You've been taking notes. Have you captured the essence of what you would really want an employer to know about all the great things about you? I think this tool really helps us to get down to the most important things about us that we would really want to share with someone. And like we said, this is just a template. It's just an example of how you can develop a one-page profile, but think about personalizing the design if you like, especially if the employer that you're looking to connect with may have some elements of design or creativity involved in the work. you can really put a good foot forward by, personalizing the design. I also recommend that when you use a photo of yourself for your one-page profile, think about dressing for success, the way you might in an interview. Think about wearing a professional outfit and make sure the lighting is nice, and put your best foot forward in the picture that you share of yourself. And that really can make it a good impact. Some of you may have heard of the website LinkedIn, and that is kind of almost an example of a internet-based one-page profile. And there's a lot of tips online about how to develop a good, quote unquote, headshot, a picture of yourself for the purpose of employment. So I encourage you to do that, thinking about personalizing the design. And then lastly, we just kind of want to highlight again a couple other ways that you might consider using your one-page profile, either the one that you created today or tailor it to these specific situations. You may use your one-page profile to introduce yourself to the Department of Rehabilitation counselor you're working with. The more they know about you and what's important to you, the more likely they are to help you find the job you're looking for. We all sometimes find jobs that we're not super excited about, but if they know all the things that are important to you, what you're passionate about, maybe you'll find that job that really means something to you. You might share your one-page profile as a way to introduce yourself to a new job coach or job developer. Maybe you've worked with someone for a while and you're going to get a new support coming in. This could be a great tool to introduce yourself. You can create a one-page profile after you're hired to introduce yourself to your coworkers so that they know what are the things that are important to you in the workplace. And you could also use this to introduce yourself to a new service coordinator. If you're getting a new service coordinator and you want them to know how important it is for you to find a job, if that's something that really is a hope and dream of yours, sharing this one-page profile for employment will help them to understand how they can best support you in your hopes and dreams to get that new job. So that concludes our presentation. We're going to open it up for question and answer, and feel free to use the Q&A box. And I think Lydia is going to help us with the question and answer.
Yes. Well, thank you, Megan and Rhiannon, for that great presentation. I truly enjoyed it, and I'm sure it's going to be helpful for a lot of people that we support. It's fantastic to, it's important to know yourself, right? To know yourself, know your strengths, know who you are, to be able to have that good employment match. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. We do have a few questions. The first one is from Christian. She asks, would you suggest having both a resume and a one-page profile when looking for a job?
Yeah, so one thing I would suggest is, yes, having both a resume and a one-page profile. You could consider the one-page profile as kind of almost like a cover letter as a way of introducing yourself. You probably do write cover letters when you're applying for jobs. And I'm not saying you should substitute necessarily the one-page profile for a cover letter, but it could be part of your cover letter as an introduction to yourself. So maybe you've developed a really strong resume with all of your job experience or educational experience, and then you've got a cover letter that specifically speaks to the job you're applying for, and then you also include your one-page profile as a positive introduction. Rhiannon, do you have any other ideas about like how we would also use it in relationship to a resume?
I think it just sort of depends on the situation, on the job that you're seeking, especially like if it's a place that's a creative place, a place that, you know, is sort of like Janisha was sharing, like doesn't have you expect you to work within the set rules all the time. You know, if it's a company like that and you know that about them, you know, I think you could just hand it in conjunction with your resume and they would find it, you know, impressive actually. So yeah, I think it really just depends on the employer, but what you shared makes sense to me, kind of in conjunction with a cover letter and supporting what you already normally provide. Or even when you're applying online, actually, to positions, there will be sort of an additional attachments area, and you could really include anything you wanted in a lot of these situations. So you don't want to go over the top, but maybe this is a place where beyond what's being required of you, you can upload your one-page profile. So it's just on there as an additional document. So I would suggest that as well.
Absolutely, that's a great response. I was also thinking you could even take it with you to like an interview, right? Yeah. As an additional like support that I'm sure would help increase your chances. It's a great response. We have another question too. This is from Benjamin. He asks, I completed my one-page profile, but I think it's too short. How do I know how long it should be? And should it be catered only to the potential employer? Should I create multiple one-page profiles for different jobs? That's a great question too.
Yeah, so kind of getting back to when we're thinking about what we're adding to a one-page profile, we want it to be specific, detailed, and meaningful. So if you kind of think of that as being your guide, that's what you want to include. So you wouldn't want to include, you know, my favorite day of the week is Sunday, and I like Sunday because NFL football is playing every Sunday, and we watch Sunday football. That would not be meaningful necessarily to your employment search, right? So you do want to think about really making it concise and in the format of a one page. When we say one page profile, we really mean keeping it on that one page. And you also kind of want to think about how much text is on that one page. If it's, you know, full top to bottom, that might be overwhelming. And it could also be unlikely that an employer would read it. So you want to include the most meaningful and important information to you, but you want to keep it concise so that way the employer is more likely to read it and get to know what's important to you. Rhiannon, do you want to kind of speak to like the use of different one-page profiles in different scenarios?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of creating different one-page profiles for different jobs, if you're talking about what I think you're speaking to, which is the application process, it's almost like when, you know, you have your base one-page profile for the employment search where you're at currently and what's important to you, how to best be supported. But, you know, just like a resume, when you're applying to different roles, you look at what's being expected of you by that particular job. And if there's something that in that job you would want to make sure they know, you know, is important or how to best support you in that particular role, you would just want to tweak it a little bit. So you don't need to do a complete overhaul, but just making sure that it's including, like Megan said, the things that are specific, detailed, relevant, you know, especially for that position that you're applying for. So maybe there's a couple things you take in and out to substitute depending on the job you're applying for. And also, like we said during the earlier part and throughout the training, you're never limited to just one-page profile. And you know, if it's one thing if you're sharing it during the application process, but like we said, you can use this when you're introducing yourself to a new support staff, when you're getting to know just coworkers and supervisors after you've already been hired. So it has all these different functions, and you would just need to kind of make it specific to the situation that you're introducing yourself around. So that would be the reasoning to have more than one.
Awesome, thank you so much. And I think we have time for one more question. So this one's from Janisha. When developing the part of the profile about your interest, what you're passionate about, are there times when you wouldn't want to put interests that are not related to the job you're applying to?
Yeah, I think you could use your creativity and judgment around that. You know, maybe checking in with your circle of support about what might be relevant and what might not be. Janisha brings a great point. Like I mentioned just earlier, maybe you're not adding that you love NFL football on Sundays because you're applying for a job that you might have to work on Sundays. So maybe you wouldn't include that information. But if you're applying for a job at the NFL, you know, if you were trying to get a job, you know, in any capacity working for the NFL, maybe you would include that because it's really important to you and it would show how dedicated you are to that particular employer. So I think that you will want to use your creativity and judgment to a certain extent. Obviously, if you have an interest that would not reflect positively on you in the workplace, you probably would want to omit that. So if you have extracurricular activities that your employer probably shouldn't know about, you could go ahead and leave those off your one-page profile. We want to do a positive introduction to you. Rhiannon, did you have anything else you wanted to add about that?
I would just take it back to kind of my brother's example. So he hasn't mentioned in his profile that his dogs are important to him, and everyone loves dogs. So in general, I think that's a lot of people love dogs. So it doesn't hurt to mention that. But the reason why I think he wanted to make sure it was included in the profile is because it's important to him to have time to spend with them. And normally he walks the dogs in the morning. So if it's possible, in his best support section, it said, a job developer could help him by maybe finding opportunities that would allow him to maintain his morning routine. So start a little bit later and have that afternoon shift if possible, because that's something that's really important to him. So that's when you would maybe bring in interest, especially if it has to do with, like the example Megan gave as well. You're hoping to be able to have your Sundays to yourself, but understanding that might not always work out. So yeah, you can get creative with it, that's for sure. And that will be the last one, right, Liddy?
Yes, that is the last question. Thank you again, both Rhiannon and Megan. Thank you, everyone, the audience. Thank you for being very interactive during today's presentation. It really helped elevate the presentation. And we truly hope that you enjoyed today's presentation. The presentation will also be, it was recorded, so it'll be available on our YouTube channel. And yeah, thank you for everything. I hope that everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again for your participation, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.